today we're going to start talking about, basically beyond the booking and creating a five-star review for our guests and clientele. So today, just a quick intro again. My name's Aaron Kavanaugh. I'm with the Kaza Group. I am the short-term rental specialist on our team, and I've been doing short-term rentals focused since COVID. And I'm joined today by my partner Corey DiAugustino, who can give himself a little press as well. So Corey, go ahead.
Sure. So I have been investing in real estate for about 19 years. Used to have a number of single families. I still have some multifamily, and about 3 years ago got into the short-term rental thing. Currently own four short-term rentals, manage another 17, and still have a multifamily portfolio and a couple single families left. Um, but a lot of those have transitioned into either multifamily or short-term rental. So here we
Cool,
are.
cool. Here we are. So before we get started, does anybody have any questions in reference to creating this experience? Cool, Corey. So we're gonna lean on you a little bit today. Kayla was supposed to be here to help us out a little bit, but she couldn't find some daycare. So we'll figure it out. You know how it goes. So long story short, we're talking about five-star experiences. So just from the very beginning, you're looking to create an experience for a guest. What kind of things do you start with from the very beginning of when they connect with you, whatever platforms? What are you starting with to kind of generate that five-star review from the very beginning?
Um, I mean, the first thing I'm looking at is making sure that the description of the property accurately represents the property. So, you can have a great description, but if it's painting a picture of what the property is, and when the person gets there, the property is not that, you're going to have a difficult time. I think, Aaron, you've got a couple of situations you're dealing with right now that fall into that category.
Yeah. So, for example, we own a property in Front Royal. It's a great house. We had a great experience with the guest. Everything was great, but he gave us a one-star review only because the property didn't have a view. Now, we didn't say anything in reference to the view in our description because we don't have one, but he was expecting something different. So that kind of started a little bit with that to begin with. So, as
Which
Corey
property was
mentioned,
that?
that was for Wildcat.
Ah, is
Yep.
that recent?
Within the last 6 or 8 guests. Yeah. Yep. So just something to be aware of, so some things to consider. If you have a property that's on a dirt road or a tall mountain that, needs to have a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicle, you should probably talk about that. You might want to have some descriptions in reference to the location, as to what's around it and things like that, so people are aware when they're booking that they can understand before they even jump in, right? We also talk about high quality photographs. You can't just drop in, cell phone pictures into your listing and assume that you're going to have a great experience. So, we always make sure that you're adding to your photography with drone photos. Sometimes floor plans help. Anything that you can do to add value in your listing so that people will start with you from the very beginning. So it's kind of like online dating as what we explain it, right? So, you know, if you have limited number of photos, you don't have a pretty good description, no one's really going to click onto your property as far as getting started with a five-star review. So anything else that you can think of, Corey, that kind of helps with just the very beginning of what we're talking about?
I think the pictures are important. The description, making sure that you have the amenities people are looking for. Different properties are going to have different things. And, if you're going to have the amenity, it's important to highlight it in the listing. If you say you have a hot tub and then you have like the 120 volt hot tub, that's a blow up. That might not be what people are expecting to get when they come there. So
Sure.
disclose as much information as possible on the front end of the listing, and that way people know what they're getting when they show up to the property.
That's right. So Corey, as we've discussed, there are multiple facets to a five-star review. Can you kind of rattle those off from your perspective?
Sure.
So you've got
Um,
cleanliness, right? You've got
there is cleanliness. You want to make sure that the place is stocked with the items that a guest would expect. Pots and pans and sheets. I personally provide shampoo, conditioner, body wash, laundry detergent, dishwasher soap, dishwasher detergent, extra sheets, pillows, linens, blankets, extra blankets, uh, internet access. So I have seen properties that are still operating as Airbnbs that don't provide linens for people, which I find surprising. They want them to bring their own towels, and I'm not sure that that fits the bill or cuts it at this point in time in the short-term rental world. So I think it's important not only to have all the amenities on the outside, but also have all the things that make somebody's trip seamless on the inside.
Yeah, for sure. So just going through what Airbnb puts out there as their review status, you've got accurate, right? Is your listing accurate? We started off with talking about that and making sure that you have enough information in the listing for it. The second part is it does it have um, cleanliness, right? Is your property pretty clean or extremely clean, right? What does that kind of look like? That's a big part of making sure that the guests are feeling comfortable in your property, especially if you have, a hot tub or something like that. They don't want to open the cover and have, bugs and other spiders or whatever floating around in that. So just make sure that it's clean, right? Another one that I see is check-in, right? Is the check-in process pretty seamless? Um, do they have the check-in code? Can they open the door relatively easy? Do you give them a specific time to be there? Things like that, right? Um, some other things that we consider in there is guest communication, right? So this is a big one, and probably something we should spend the most time talking about. But your guests don't want to be bombarded with thousands of messages. They want to enjoy their experience. But is your communication clear, concise? Does it give them enough information, or are you responsive? Meaning, if there's an issue with the property, can you respond relatively quickly? So, Corey, you co-host many properties right there. So, how often do you kind of have a communication with a guest or anything like that? What's your usual experience?
A lot of the information is set up automatically, so it gets shot out to people on a, fairly regular basis. That way, our mailbox has a key. We're planning on giving. Sorry, I was reading that question that came in about a mailbox access. Elizabeth, do you want to chime in there real quick? And what's that question?
Not really. Okay, so
Oh,
what I'm assuming here is
she's
she's at work or something like that. So
got
what I'm going to assume is what
no, I
most
cannot.
Airbnbs have at this point is a some kind of keypad, right? They're going to be a digital keypad that you can give a new access code to each guest. Usually it runs with the last four digits of their social security number. I personally have a combination lockbox at the property in case the batteries die on the keypad, right? And so what I'm assuming from her question is, they have somebody in the mailbox or a key in the mailbox that they can give so that, everything kind of goes well. Um,
Right.
so
What message do you have set up on your properties?
me,
Yep.
yeah, so we are very simple. So about 24 hours in advance of the stay, we shoot out a message in reference to the login code, the address of the property, time to be there, and things like that, just so it makes their start very smooth, so they know exactly what to expect when they get there, right? It also, I actually had a stay in a property that was extremely rural, and we had to wind up a road and it was extremely dark. So the host said you might want to come a little bit earlier during the day instead of later in the evening because you can see where you're going during the day versus at nighttime. So stuff like that. So our mailbox has a key. We are not planning on giving a mailbox access. We figure they can pull ahead. Do not want everyone's mail. Okay, as long as we tell them. As far as mail is
Oh,
concerned,
I don't allow any guests. Oh,
yeah.
but this is a midterm rental. I see what you're saying. So it's a midterm rental. I don't deal with midterm rentals, so I'm not too familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with them. I just find midterm rentals to actually be more work than short-term rentals. In all honesty, I feel like the second you get a tenant in, you are on the hunt for a new tenant because the stay is typically 3 to 6 months. Um, I have a property I could delve into with a midterm rental over in Annapolis, Maryland. I just haven't converted it from a long-term rental. It is just too passive right now and too easy for me to want to start to pull any more money out of it with any extra effort. So all my properties right now are midterms. I'm sorry, are short terms. I don't have any midterms. I'm trying to read this real quick. Okay, key in the mailbox. I think if you tell them and they have access to the mailbox, great. If I'm reading this correctly, I know it's difficult because you're at work. Um, but yeah, I would imagine if it's a midterm, I would think that you can give them access to the mail and let them have their mail delivered there. I
Yeah,
hope that answers the
y-
question.
yeah, I don't, if it's the guest's mail, sure, right? But if it's our mail, I would have every utility bill already set up on an auto pay or some kind of digital payment system, right? Mortgages as well, so they don't have any access to our mail. If that client or somebody needed that, then I would certainly give them the key for that. But you can get a free key from the mail comp or from the U.S. Postal Service very simply if that's something that you're talking about.
Yeah, but Becky, Mahmood, or Rosie, do you guys have properties right now? You guys can take yourself off mute and chime in.
Yes, I have a single short-term rental in Boise, Virginia.
Okay, and who's talking right now?
This is Rosie.
This is Rosie. Okay, great. You've got a single family home?
Um, yeah, I mean it's a condo, but it looks like a
Okay,
townhouse. Yeah.
gotcha. One bedroom,
3 bedrooms.
3 bedroom, two
Hmm.
bath,
One.
3 bedroom, one bath. Okay. How long have you had it for?
Since late 2023.
Oh, great. So it's probably done well over the years, I'd imagine.
It has. Yeah, the area is a Four Seasons area. Stays really busy. The resort is
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
And
I have a property there as well, so I'm very familiar with it.
yeah, I tend to keep my prices competitive, so I'm always booked.
Okay. What kind of occupancy are you seeing right now?
Between Airbnb and Vrbo, I'm looking at 65 to 70.
Okay. And what
Mhm.
kind of gross revenue are you seeing on a 3 bed top line gross, including cleaning fees on a 3 bedroom, one bath?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. I only
What
got bits
kind
of that question.
what kind of top line gross revenue, including cleaning fees, are you seeing on a 3 bedroom, one bath?
What, annual
Yeah,
revenue?
Annual, sure,
how
annual.
much money did you
Oh,
pull in? Yeah.
um, 2024 was probably in the 35K range.
Okay.
That's cool.
Mhm.
So you're probably sitting at a property when you bought it, maybe it was a 200,000, 175,000, something like that. Is that correct?
Something like that, yes.
Okay. So 35,000 sounds like a good number to me. You're running around 15 to 18% in, cash on cash return, right? Corey, something like that in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, what is your debt service on the property? Meaning how much you owe each month in a mortgage.
Oh, I owe $1,200.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So between cleaning fees, so you're making a little bit of money each month, cash flow positive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's been great. I'm trying to get a hot tub in there. Having a little bit of issues with retrofitting the existing deck. So I'm looking into that, and that will definitely up my bookings, and I could probably increase my rates as well. You
Right.
know,
And what's the problem with it? You gotta
the
support the deck.
yeah, the existing deck may not support the weight,
Right.
even for a four-person hot tub. So I'm still looking into it,
Gotcha.
but it'll definitely pay off if I get it in there.
Sure. And do you include resort? Do you have the corporate passes for your property?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, it's everything is fee for service for a lot of the winter activities. The pool is only open for members. So,
Right.
yeah, and I know some rentals do include some passes, but I don't, and I don't have any issues getting booked.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily about getting booked, right? Like, yes, you'll get booked. The question is, do the passes get you more dollars for your bookings, right? I have the passes, so I do utilize them, and there are a number of people who are coming specifically looking for the passes, and
Mm-hmm.
I only know because they ask questions about the passes.
Okay.
But I still think I have people that are coming that don't care if they get the passes or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting to hear. You never know
Mm-hmm.
if they're working or not until somebody says something about them.
That is true. I have
Yeah.
gotten a question or two about passes included.
Oh, you have.
But like I said, my rates are so competitive that it really doesn't work, the math doesn't work right now. I would have to increase my rates which would then impact my bookability too. So it's a very fine line. It's a trade space.
Or would you get more booked because you have the passes?
True.
You just never know.
Um, yeah, it
Always a
really,
catch 22,
yeah.
right?
Yes, exactly. So that's where I stand. I would love to increase my STR portfolio, and I'm looking at some other areas. But Base is still pretty marketable right now, and high activity. So I'll definitely probably stay there for a little bit.
Yeah, so that goes right back into what we were talking about in generating these five-star reviews is the location, right? So what amenities are not only with the property but around the property that a guest can use and actually draws them into that area. So for example, what we're talking about in Boise, Virginia is Bryce Mountain Resort. There's skiing in the winter, there's golf and mountain biking up the mountain or down the mountain. Then there's Lake Laura that people can rent canoes and kayaks and things like that. And it's only an hour away from like the Shenandoah River, the national forest, and things like that. So, as far as a bookability, some parts of Shenandoah Valley are better than others. But if you have, like I said, mentioned it in your listing, what's around it, maybe adding those resort passes, we find that having a hot tub is almost essential in our area because most people don't have one at their current home, and so if they're going to shoot out for the weekend, they're going to want to have a hot tub to experience, right? So not only are we talking about the amenities in the property, but amenities around the property that can really enhance your listings to bring out that five-star review. And then another piece of the puzzle here is value, right? And so something that she was discussing is really solid rates that draw in a pretty good occupancy rate for what that property is. So it may be a little bit low, which is why she's getting booked so well. It's totally fine as long as you're happy with that number, right? If you wanted to try, we've done multiple different things to increase our opportunities, lower prices, add pets. Um, what else, Corey? What else can you think of that you can really use in pricing your property appropriately to generate that value perspective on the five-star review?
Well, you should have dynamic pricing, right? I think if you're not using dynamic pricing, you're setting yourself up for a tough time. The dynamic pricing specifically Price Labs, will allow that pricing to fluctuate between the high seasons, the low seasons, the events going on in the area, and how your property's occupancy is comparing with somebody else's property's occupancy.
Yeah, it's an automated tool. It's really great. You can set your highs and lows, and then if it's not within that parameter, then the system will let you know first and foremost. But it helps you not only make more money, but also not lose as much money, right? So we find that Price Labs is a great tool, especially when you're connecting it to your property. Now, if you are using a system like Hospitable or Guesty or Logify, because you're on multiple platforms, you want to make sure that the that Price Labs is staying connected, so that it is shooting out the right prices for each platform, right? We had an issue not too long ago where Booking.com actually disconnected from our platform, and the Price Labs scenario didn't work, and we got a bunch of bookings at about $25 to $30 less than what we normally do in our stuff. So it led to a lower, gross revenue month. So, just making sure that all your systems and tools are connected properly, and so that your guests know exactly what's going on, right? That's a very big part of managing these properties.
Aside from Rosie, does anybody else have a property that they put some features in or how they're enhancing their guest experience on the properties? I know Ethan, you just joined. Mahmood, do you have a property? Nobody.
Oh, I don't currently have a short-term rental, but getting there.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So let's ask a different question. So Mahmood, if you were to book a property, what are some amenities that you would like to see inside your property or inside the property you would rent?
Well, the hot tub adds value for sure. It's especially when it's coupled with some privacy, so I can be there freely in the hot tub, not just being in the hot tub and seeing the neighbor in the front porch watching
Sure.
me.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yep.
The views is number one, I think, for me. Um, the nature is what I would care about, like whether it's the views or at least getting there or out there or very close to the property.
Okay.
Anything else is complimentary.
So just so views, hot tub, maybe water access, right? Something like that that's going to enhance your thing, but you already assume that it's going to have coffee, pizza maker, EV charging stations, things like that.
Yep. I wouldn't say EV charging station. It's a plus for sure, but uh, like coffee for sure. It's water access is great. I remember one of my most favorite Airbnbs back in the day. It was a very small, um, like back house or additional unit for somewhere in Lorray. It was waterfront, and it was only $125 a night. But that was like 4 years ago. I don't know the prices now, but
Probably
it was a
tripled.
very small one. Yeah, but it was always booked. It was very humble, very small, waterfront, very tiny. Like it's literally three bedrooms right next to each other. You can go and see on the left stackable beds in front of you, another bed on the left, the kitchen, behind the kitchen, a very small bathroom. It's very convenient, but it just the basic needs. Coffee, everything is there. And outside there was a small fire pit on the water, and the house of the owner was like about 200 foot um far away. Like you can see the house. And it was
Okay, so
fully
how did
booked
that?
because of the pricing.
Yeah, so you were there because of the pricing and because of the water.
100%.
Didn't care so much that there were neighbors close by or whatever. Yeah,
No, it was
so
only the owner. And he
got it.
was also provided, like he came provided more wood when we asked for it on spot. So that was additional thing that like like they're very close to address any issues. Uh, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, so first and foremost, when you're out there looking at, renting a place or whatever, you automatically, and this is just me, but we've been taught, right, that anywhere you go, you want to have a 5-star review, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's, Home Depot and the product that you buy, Amazon, whatever. You go on and you look at reviews, right? And that's kind of the discussion that we're having here today. So, starting with, you know, great quality descriptions, great quality photographs, so the clientele or the guest understands what they're rolling into before they get there, right? Then it's the amenities that you have at the property that are really going to continue to make them happy. And so, this is not just a real estate investment. This is a business that you're actually starting to run, and it's all based on hospitality. Like if you were to go to a hotel and you know the difference between, a Motel 6 and a Marriott, Bonvoy. So, or a Hyatt or something like that. You know the difference between all of those. And so what we're trying to accomplish here is how do we create, regardless of the price of the property, how do you create that 5-star review? Because like Mahmoud said, the guest understands, hey, I'm renting this with the understanding, hey, the neighbor or the owner's right there. He may be able to drop off some wood, to having a completely private experience. Somebody owns the property from California, right? Corey's managing one of our clients' property, who lives in Seattle, Washington, and now he's performing much better based on some recommendations that Corey brought into the thing. So, Corey, kind of give us a little update as to what happened with TJ and what you're really talking about over there. How did you improve that property?
Yeah, so we had a basic property. It was good, but it wasn't great. He had an entire room downstairs that was being used as storage. And, when I started working with TJ, one of the things that I recommended that he do is take the entire room that he was not utilizing. Couldn't be a bedroom because you would need to put an egress window in there. There's no windows down in that basement room. So we turned it into a game room. We added in a pool table, air hockey, um, a couple of arcade machines and a big television in there. And, it made a big hit. And he started bringing in a lot more revenue, started getting bookings on a much more steady basis. We did some additional upgrades to the porch area as well, put in a nice table out there, put in some nice Adirondack chairs. He had previously gotten the chairs that you can get them from Home Depot. They cost about $40 a pop, but they're kind of flimsy plastic. And if you upgrade that kind of stuff, like those chairs, it's just much more comfortable for people to sit in. They last longer. You do spend more money on them, but at the end of the day, your money is going further because you're not replacing this stuff all the time. So putting the money into the right amenities, not all the amenities, and having the things that are going to last longer and be a little bit better quality, may goes a long way with the guests when they get there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, a lot of times when you are buying a property that's going to be furnished, a lot of people will say, well, let's just jump onto Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and see what kind of furniture we can buy, right? Because you never know what you're going to get with that stuff. But I will tell you, spending some money on high quality mattresses, better quality sheets, nice pillows. As Corey mentioned, those Adirondack chairs, they're Trex material versus plastic. The ones that you can get. I mean, there's millions of different styles of things that you want to do to your property, and it's all budget based, right? So, making sure that you have a decent property, but it's also well appointed with nice furniture that's set up specific. You don't want to have, like my background here, a nice ocean viewed, property with light colored, light blues and things like that in a mountainous area. You want to have more cabin feel depending on that property, right? So, Corey, where do you tend to spend your money if you're setting up a new Airbnb as far as furniture goes?
Like where am I buying it from?
Well, that and or what are you going a little bit more on the low end price wise? You going high end? What are you doing as far as cost for furnishing a bedroom and things like that? Just to kind of give us an idea.
I try and stay reasonable. I get quality furniture that doesn't break the bank. Stuff that's gonna last and be able to, be there through a number of different turns. You got to do some digging and you got to figure it out, but I'm not buying all my stuff from Pottery Barn, I can tell you that. I'm
Yep.
also not getting everything off Craigslist. So it's a combination between, depends on the item, right? Some stuff I do get from Facebook Marketplace. There's stuff I get from Wayfair. There's stuff I get from Amazon. It's just a mix depending on the item that I'm searching for.
Cool. And then you're spending a what? 2,500 bucks per bedroom, something like that?
Typically it's $5,000 to $6,000 per bedroom.
Okay, that's a great budget to kind of work with, right? So thinking about what things cost, right? So 5 to 6 grand on a bedroom, you're not necessarily adding a ton of dressers, right? You might have one dresser. You don't want to fill up the entire room with take up all the space there, right? So if you're spending that amount of money, then it's going to be a higher quality mattress, better pillows, sheets, maybe something like that.
Well, no, the $5,000 to $6,000 is not per bedroom,
Okay.
right?
What's
Uh, the $5,000 to $6,000 is a three-bedroom house is going to cost you between 15 and $18,000 to fully furnish.
got it? Makes sense. Okay.
Right? So that's the three bedrooms, the kitchen, the living room, the game room, all the silverware, all the rugs, all the couches, all the cups, all the glasses, all the linens, right?
Right.
Typically, a good ballpark is $5,000 to $6,000 per bedroom will allow you to furnish the entire house.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Everybody understand where he's coming from on that? We have a wild crowd today, don't we? Yeah. So, all right. So, as we are talking, a lot of people have different ideas as to where they want to visit, where they're, you know, what types of properties are going to do better, what areas are going to do better. Corey, I know that you and we like managing properties or buying properties in the woods, right? Your more mountainous areas versus the beach, or cities and things like that. What have you found as far as, the types of investments, based on what you're doing?
In what sense?
Profit margins, easeability, guest relations, things like that.
Got it. I like the mountain ones just because it's a typically a year-round destination, as opposed to the beach where it's very seasonal and the barrier to entry is much higher.
Yeah,
So
for
you can
sure.
probably get two houses in the mountains for the cost of one at the beach, and the two houses in the mountains are going to be booking year round, as opposed to the ones at the beach that will be very, very seasonal.
Yeah, gotcha. And then, as far as, you and I are headed to Nashville next week for a wealth conference for short-term rentals. Um, there's a lot of competition. If you're ever in the area of going to Nashville or a city like that, if you go out there and look at what they have available on Airbnb, there's a lot of competition there. So, in certain areas, the cities are great, especially like Nashville. There's a lot of things to do there, right? But at the same time, we have to look at rules and regulations. I know for a fact that in certain areas of Nashville, they don't allow for short-term rentals at all, right? So when you are in a specific area, even if it's mountain or on the beach or wherever, you want to check into those rules and regulations, because if somebody that's part of an HOA, even though it allows for short-term rentals, comes across onto the property and knocks on the door and gives a hard time to one of the guests at the property, that's something that you have to address as far as, you know, as the stay, right? That could affect your rating, your 5-star review. So, again, things to think about along the way. It's not a very hard concept, but let's fill up the property with what most people want to see, right? You take their feedback and then you add to it as you go. Don't need to spend all the money up front, although I like to see properties that are fully furnished and finished before, right? I have some clients that say, I can't afford a hot tub right now, but I will once I have some bookings, right? And so they know that going in, so their incomes are adjusted based on that factor, right? So, as far as 5-star reviews, go back to Airbnb, for example, and just kind of pull out what are the
The
what's
problem with doing it
amenities.
that way, though, Aaron, sorry to cut you off, is you
Yep.
fall into a death spiral, right? Like
Yeah.
you're never gonna get out of that hole, right? Unless your property, unless you're getting it for a super dirt cheap price, uh, you're done, right? I mean, if you don't set up the amenities and you don't get the stuff in the property initially, uh, you can find yourself struggling, and you're never gonna raise the money to put that stuff in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unless you're really,
a
really
hot
good at
tub,
expense management.
a hot tub with a pad and the electric and the actual hot tub itself, it's going to cost you somewhere between, I'll call it 7,500 and 1,200 bucks, right?
12 grand.
Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
so you're never going to, that property that you're waiting to put that amenity on, you're not going to cash flow on enough to ever raise that money to put in that amenity because you don't have that amenity to begin with. So if you're
Sure.
going to cheap out in the beginning and wait to put in the amenities and wait to do the things that need to be done to make the property stand out in the market, you should sit on the sideline and wait for a property that has those things in order to buy them, or you should come equipped with the dollars to put into that property, and not so much worry about spending, uh, I'll call it anywhere between 10 and $30,000 on a designer, right? And that's taking away from your hot tub that you could potentially put in the place,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Or doing the outdoor space. You can find, and you should be savvy enough, and there's enough AI tools out there where you can take a picture of a space and have it design it for you, where you don't need to spend $10,000 to $30,000 on a designer. Save that money for the amenities, or use that money to furnish your entire place, because
Yeah.
that's how much it's going to cost you. So if you're spending $10,000 to $30,000 on a designer, and then that designer is also giving you the West Elm Pottery Barn high-end furniture, you're now spending twice as much as you need to furnish the place. You're also spending twice as much as that to get the designer. So you're spending 3 times as much on that property to get it just furnished. And that's taking away from things like your outdoor space and your amenities.
Yeah, so really working with it within your budget, making sure you understand the numbers and what the property already has and does not have, right? There was a webinar that I was watching the other day, that has everything to do with, very specifically making sure that your property is kept up to date, right? So what may have been in your property in 2010, 2015 does not necessarily translate into top dollars today in 2025, right? So you're going to have to save some money. You're going to have to replace some items that get broken. You're going to have to update that property along the way, to make sure that you're still remaining, especially as it gets more competitive out there in this marketplace. You have to maintain your excellence, not only with your reviews, but what's inside the amenities of the property, things like that. So if you have an old beat up hot tub cover, right, even though the hot tub is not necessarily ratted out yet, you might want to consider putting that in there. It's all an image thing, right? Because if I were to go to, one of those Hyatt hotels and their hot tub cover was torn, I would have a little thought in the back of my head, hey, what happened here? Why is this like that? And not feel as safe as I normally would, right?
Rose, you got another question?
Yes, for you, Corey, since you
Sure.
deal with the more rural, mountainous type of STRs, what do you think is the ROI on having toys
Don't
like an
say sauna.
ATV,
Okay, good.
like an ATV or a sauna? I mean, yes.
I
And
think
of
the
course,
sauna,
fire pits are really easy to get
fire
going,
fire
but
pits are easy. I think saunas are a complete waste of money. Uh,
mhm.
I've seen people put in saunas and it hasn't done a thing for their property. I don't think it does anything.
All right.
I
What
think
about
people are looking for hot
ATVs?
tubs.
What about
Uh,
having an ATV that they could
Providing an
roam 10
ATV for
acres?
somebody.
Yeah.
Uh, if you have you run that by your insurance company?
Well, yeah, it does create an additional liability. You do
Yeah,
have to have all kinds of caveats for the guests before they
sure.
use it.
I think it's an appeal to some people. Personally, it's not something I would want to stomach. I have people who are I have properties that are on the river. I don't provide kayaks or tubes or paddle boards or anything like that. Right. I just don't want the liability of somebody going down there. If they want to do that and they want to bring it themselves, that's fine. An ATV, I'm I'm a risk taker. I mean, I buy properties sight unseen. I'm pretty loosey goosey with kind of the stuff that I want to do, and the ability to jump on it. I Two things I don't do is ATVs. Not that I've thought of it, but I wouldn't do it. And I also don't like, for example, I don't allow fires in my house, right? Like any fireplace that is in the house, I put a set of birch logs in there that can hold tea lights, and they can turn that on if they want. So Rosie, I don't know that I'd be able to sleep at night if I knew I was giving people who have never ridden an ATV access to an ATV.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean, there's
even if you
there's
go onto a
waivers and
lake
stuff,
property,
but
you're still talking about, hey, do you allow them to rent the jet ski or the boat, right? I think Corey mentioned it. There's a lot of risk involved with that your insurance company may want. I know for a fact that if a property that I've sold recently has a wood burning fireplace, the insurance company is asking that question up front before they even provide the insurance quote. So,
Now,
just
Rosie,
the
what I would do, instead of owning your own ATVs, I would get in touch with a couple of companies that do ATV rentals and let your guests know that if they're interested in an ATV rental, to contact you and you'll coordinate it with them.
all right, I like that idea. And
That
that
way,
way
that
they get a little
company,
instruction too.
they get instruction. That company is licensed, bonded, and insured. It's an actual
Mhm.
business for them, right? That way, the onus is not on you; it's on that company.
Okay.
That leads us
Awesome.
into a great question. So, I've heard conversations in reference to what we call a concierge service, right? So, are you an Airbnb owner and you have relationships with companies like the tubing company or the local restaurant or the ATV provider, right? Can you, as an owner of a property, connect with that particular company and offer the clientele a discount? That's an amenity that you can put out there, just kind of like those, resort passes, right? It's a similar thing to that, but that actually enhances the opportunity for you. We did little things like we had we don't provide any alcohol or anything like that, but we had a guest stay at one of our clients' properties, and they put roses out on the floor and on the bed, and because it was their anniversary or whatever it was, and we kind of dressed it up with some stuff from a local florist. Offered a little discount, but the one guest that booked it as a surprise for their partner made all the difference in the world. So just having some relationships is actually a good thing, and you can call that whatever you want. But concierge service, we can put that into any listing. Hey, if you're interested in this, it's right down the street. Here's the discount code or whatever the case may be for staying with us at that particular property.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that unless I'm making money on it.
Of course, of course.
I think that when you start to deal with the guest interaction, it becomes a lot more for not a large return. Right. So trying to set up and coordinate that kind of stuff, although it's nice, there's not enough properties out there offering it that somebody's going to notice the difference whether you're doing it or not, and they're not going to pay the premium because you do it. Right. So the
Okay.
only way that I would do it is I would make it so that there's enough money coming in from that vendor to me, right, in order to make it worth it, because there's a lot of back end time that's spent doing that kind of stuff that people aren't. It's not like they're getting it at 18 other Airbnbs. It's not like there's 20 Airbnbs in the area, 19 of them are offering it and you're not, right?
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is nobody's offering it, and so if you do, they're going to have the expectation that it's there because you say you offer it, and then their pricing is already locked in and competitive with everybody else. So it's the amount of time and effort. And maybe if you have one property, I guess that's great. I've got 21 that I'm dealing with right now. I cannot imagine trying to coordinate a concierge service on 21 properties for 21 different groups of people coming in and out, like it would be a
Yep.
complete nightmare. The only way
Yeah.
that I would get involved in something like that is if there's a huge cut in it for me, because I don't feel like it's that much of a differentiator for people because not enough people are doing it.
Got it. That makes sense. Sure. So again, everybody's going to run their show a little bit different, but it's all about this guest reviews and their experience, right? It's not just a set it and forget it type of scenario. So, you have to be active when you're talking about managing a property, from just managing the cleaners and their expectations and how to, clean that property. You want to have some reporting from them that shows photographs or videos of what they actually did, so you can see the property being clean in between, right? That's an expectation. It may not be something that you would do every time, but something that you want to, you know, keep with your cleaner so they understand, right? You want to make sure that you're following the trends, right? So a lot of properties these days, if you don't have a hot tub, you may not get booked as much, right? Because that's an amenity that people like. Corey mentioned the saunas. That's a newer amenity that are just coming along now, and so some properties have it, some don't. We haven't seen the type of returns like a hot tub yet. The same would apply for an EV charging station, right? There's a lot of vehicles that are out there that are, hybrids and or, electric and need that, but I wouldn't put it at a property that's on top of a mountain that, how many EVs that are actually going to make it up the top of that mountain unless it's a Jeep EV.
Yeah, it's just that there's too many properties out
Yeah,
there that are not, there's too many people out there that aren't going to use those amenities.
right.
So if you get a sauna and 90 out of 100 people are not looking for a sauna, but because you have a sauna, you think you can charge a premium rate, you're charging a premium rate that only applies to 10 of the people coming to look at the property.
That
Same
is
with the
true.
EV charger, right? If
Yep.
80 out of 100 people don't have an electric vehicle, then they're not looking for that amenity and they don't care about it. So if you raise your price because you have an electric charger and your price gets knocked out of the realm of competitive for those 80 other people, you really haven't increased your pool of people that you are appealing to. You've actually decreased it because you're trying to squeeze a premium out of something that most people don't care about.
Yeah, and this goes back to market research, right? So it depends on where it's located. Like I might say, yeah, it's better to have an EV charging station at Bryce Mountain because there's a lot of people that do come in with their, from DC or Arlington with their EV, electric vehicles, and they want to spend the weekend there, right? And do some skiing or whatever. That's fine. But in the more rural dirt road scenarios, they may not be able to get into those areas with that type of vehicle. So, um, secondarily, you want to consider having pets. A lot of people, they say, pets are a problem because I don't want them to damage the furniture or have an accident in the floor or something like that. But, what we find, based on true data, that a lot of the people booking our properties do have pets. And so that, there's definite scenarios and trends and things like that you all need to look at when you're, considering investing in a property. And then once you have that property, if the numbers aren't quite there, well, okay, what am I missing? And go back to that list and kind of understand what are the things that I need to add to this property right now to increase my opportunity, right? Um, Corey, any other thoughts that you can have? We only got 10 minutes left. So kind of, what are any other additional thoughts on creating 5-star reviews for people?
I think you have to know what you're doing. There's a lot of people doing this that don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of people doing this who get in and have never owned a property, long term or short term, and they dive in and they think it's easy, and it's not easy. There's a lot of different components that you have to deal with in order to make it valuable for somebody. The biggest one that I find is being 100% available 100% of the time, right? The guest communication, to be honest with you, is the easiest part of the game, right? The guest communication piece, getting back and forth in touch with the guest, that's easy, right? The next layer up that you need to deal with is the guest communication and then how that coordinates with the cleaning schedule and the cleaners, right? Guests are asking for early check-in, late checkout. Something's not at the property like toilet paper or paper towels. They saw some dirt on the floor. Well, those are all calls that are coordinated then by you between you and the cleaners, and then you have to communicate that information back to the guests, right? It's not like you're sitting there telling the guest to call the cleaner, you're coordinating that information. Then the third level up is the maintenance, right? If somebody's HVAC is out, or there's a light bulb out, or some game isn't working in the property, like who are you calling on the back end to coordinate the maintenance work at the property, right? Again, you're not putting the guest in touch with that person. So some things are easy, right? If you have your maintenance guy, you can just call them up to have them go over. If you have an air conditioning that goes out at 8:30 in the evening on July 3rd, speaking from what happened to me this past July 4th weekend, okay, it is hours on the phone trying to get somebody, an HVAC guy, to get out to the middle of West Virginia to fix that AC on July 4th weekend. Okay. So it is not as easy as just telling the guest to take care of it or suffer through it when it's 90 degrees out.
Right.
So again, like that's the back end stuff. And not depending on, like what you have to do is you have to be available. Like I was on the phone at 9:30 at night trying to find HVAC companies on July 3rd to get lined up. And then I found somebody who would go out July 4th, paying a premium of $350 for him just to go out. That did not even include, that does not get wrapped into the cost of whatever he had to do, because his exact words to me were, well, I have to go away from my family on July 4th. So no, you don't recoup that money in the cost of the repair. That $350 is going right into my pocket. Okay. Well, I don't have a choice, right? So on July 4th, he goes out. I still have to be in touch with him. I have to make sure he's showing up. I have to tell the guests when he's coming out. He's going to call me and tell me what the problem is. I have to relay that information back to the guests because they're not in the house right now. They're out at a pool because it was too hot in the house, right? And then like the fifth layer of communication that pops in, and this is if you start managing properties, right? Now you got to communicate all this information to the owner as well. So there's a lot of back end stuff that's going on the property to make it that 5-star stay that most people don't realize or don't consider. But this is my job. This is what I
Yeah.
do. This is
Right.
what I do 24/7. I don't have a W-2. If I had a W-2, I would not be able to do what I'm doing right now. There's no way.
That's
There is
right.
absolutely no way. I would need to hire somebody to do this. But because I don't have a W-2 and this is what I do, I have 21 properties where I can pick up the phone and I can call and I can be responsive and I can contact the people that I need to in order to get them in place to make it a 5-star stay for somebody.
Yeah, that goes right back to your 3 or 4 P thing, right? So the right property, the right photographs, the right people, right? And then the right price. All four of those categories are really going to lead that guest experience to that 5-star review. And just doing it once or twice is easy enough, but it's a hands-on business. You have to really understand hospitality and what people are expecting when they go to a property, right? And you are now the hotel versus just having a house that's out there and somebody can stay at it, right? So managing it is a different experience. The property itself is a different experience. The amenities in the house are different, right? So taking into consideration all of those factors really lead to what your return on your investment is also, right? We find that short-term rentals, and Corey and I both are agreement in this, but at the end of the day, if you're going to get top dollar for your property on a monthly basis, gross revenues and profits, you have to do certain things. And it doesn't work if it just sits there, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and we're certainly not trying to scare you away from buying this type of investment because it's probably the most lucrative. I have a client right now that's looking for a long-term rental because he doesn't want the management, but the problem is he can't find a property that's going to cash flow.
You're not going to cash flow on a long-term rental in this market.
Right. So, at the end of the day, he's got to either decide what he wants to do or take his money and invest it in another location that might have a better return on the investment other than Northern Virginia. So, anyway, questions? Any other thoughts? We've got 3, 4 minutes left. Anybody got anything for us before we jump off?
I just wanted to point out about pets. I would say 70% of my bookings have a pet or two. And I allow that. I do have rules about them being on the couches and on the beds. And there's a $30 pet fee that I charge. But I would say that's another thing that makes me competitive is allowing pets.
Charge more
Charge more for cleaning for
for
a pet
pets.
fee?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do provide a dog bed that they can use to discourage, the couch
How many
use and
pets
all
do you
that.
allow?
One. Mhm.
One. I would be charging anywhere between 75 and $100 per stay. They will pay it.
Just for a pet?
You
Okay.
got it. Yep. Flat
All
fee.
right.
Or you could do something like
Mhm.
$30 per night.
Okay.
They'll pay
All
it.
right. All right.
If they come away for 3 days and they board their pet, they're going to be paying $50 a night to board the pet.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, knowing all of this information, like obviously, if you guys have questions later on, you already have a property or you're just thinking about getting one, certainly reach out to either Corey or myself. We're here to help. Thank you for your time. If there's anything that we can do to help you guys, our contact information is in the chat there. Feel free to jump out. We will have this as a recording and we'll send it out as well. But love to chat with you some more. I love to have the opportunity to work with you if you decided to buy into a short-term rental or if you're having struggles with your management. Corey is certainly got several different service offerings that can help the current short-term rental owners out there that can help improve their opportunity. So look forward to hearing from you in the near future, and you guys all have a great day. Okay.
See you.
Thank you guys.